I'd like to talk to you today how I am running my meeting, how am I executing, moderating my meeting, preparing my meeting together with my team members. So let's imagine I have been approached as a project manager by my customer to deliver a certain software, and the customer is expecting always by each release three things. First, the release version, the release due date, and the release content. And the release content, let's imagine, is composed of 7 features. So the customer is expecting 7 features in the content, and he is expecting the software to be released in 4 weeks from today. And I would never ever recommend to give any commitment to the customer. So never commit immediately to any customer request. First, you need to go back, you need to sit down with the team members, and they need to estimate and come up with an action plan. And this action plan will include certain list of actions that need to be delegated, distributed between the team members, the architect, the software developer, the system engineer, and the tester. And at the end of the day, we can check whether we are able to deliver that particular software with the amount of requested feature set in that amount of time duration or time box of 4 weeks that the customer is expecting. But before we invite for a team as project manager, here are the most important tips in order to execute a very successful and efficient meeting. First, you need to know that the meeting has 3 phases. First phase is the preparation phase, and it is prior to the meeting, then executing the meeting, and third is after the meeting. So before I invite the meeting, I need to ensure that I invite only the most important stakeholders, whether the stakeholders are part of my team or are part of other teams, are part of my project or part of other projects. Why is this so important? Because I would like to ensure that I don't let other people losing their time, and I don't invite people that might put input that will be drifting the discussion from the intended goal of that meeting. And the second topic is predefining a very clear agenda. Is so important to the team members. Just imagine you are getting an invitation and you see there is a tabular agenda, and the agenda is explaining exactly what is the scope of this meeting, what are the most important topics we need to come up with from this meeting, what are the outcomes that we are expecting from the meeting. You can see also, okay, the most important and relevant stakeholders who can really contribute to the meeting are also invited. And last but not least, the time box. Estimating a good duration is so crucial. You cannot invite for 2 hours if the meeting can be discussed within 30 minutes. You will be losing your authenticity within the teams, and people might think that you are always losing their time. So be good with the time estimation and ensure that if it takes only 60 minutes, then please invite only for the 60 minutes. So prior to the meeting, as we said, we need to come up with an agenda. We need to ensure that only the most important stakeholders are invited, and we need to define a very clear outcome of the meeting. And last but not least is, of course, to come up with a good estimation for the time box for that meeting. Now, phase 2. Generally, I don't start the meeting until all of the key stakeholders are in the meeting. The first thing I would start with is to explain the agenda, to go through the agenda points, and to give the meeting a particular frame so that we ensure that everyone is on the same page. Now that everyone is on the same page, I would go back and give space to my team members in order to negotiate. The team members could be, for example, system engineer, software developer, system architect, and a tester. I would go back and give them the specs in order to exchange the information, to go more into technical details, and I would recommend you only to interrupt where necessary. Means only when the team members are drifting or a particular item within the agenda took more time than you pre-estimated. So here I would recommend to activate your delegation and moderation models. But going back doesn't mean that you are becoming passive. You need always, as project manager or the meeting organizer, let's say, to take some meeting minutes. And the most important thing I learned to take as meeting minutes is the action plan. What is the action plan? It's a list of actions, each with an ID, with a short description, with the responsible, and with the due date. So each of my team members might take one or several actions based on his scope of know-how. I would also estimate the due date first, and I would assign it, and that will be everything offline. I will not share it from the beginning. And almost 10 minutes before end of the meeting, I would ask the team to stop the discussion, and I would share again my screen and show them the meeting minutes. And most importantly here is to get, as a project manager, the feedback and the commitment from the team members. The feedback might be, for example, to adjust the description of a certain action item, or to adjust the responsibility, or to negotiate a little bit maybe the due date that I have predefined based on my estimation. And the item owner, the one who is going to be responsible for that ticket, need to commit to the scope, need to commit to the action order, whether it should be taken first or second or third, and last but not least also, of course, the due date, whether he or she can finish that particular action item within that predefined due date. After internal negotiation with the team members, let's assume now that the action plan is mature enough and we can distribute it. Now the meeting can be closed for the team, but not for the project manager. Now the project manager prepare an email in which he needs to put the meeting minutes and of course the action plan. And this action plan now needs only to be tracked and followed. So at the end of the day, you distribute the action plan via a documented email, and you need only to track the progress. Now you are able to go back to your customer and to give a feedback. And the feedback here, you might need to negotiate again the scope or the due date, or both. So at the beginning, we said that the customer is expecting 7 features within 4 weeks. But let's say now, after your meeting with the team members, you realize that you can only deliver 5 items within the 4 weeks. Otherwise, if the customer really needs all of the items together, then you might negotiate with him the due date. And let's imagine that you might come up with 6 weeks in order to finish all of the 7 requested features. So now we went through all of the 3 phases: before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. I will be really interested to see in your comments how you are executing your meetings, how you are distributing meeting minutes, whether you are also using some best practices like action plan. Give me your comments and I will be happy to answer them.